hit this because it's hot while we're talking about it, because I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
You're a Harvard grad and a very intelligent one. You've done so many different roles. And now we're discussing ChatGPT and what it's going to do to things that, let's be honest, you put your life, every single bit of it, into getting the grades to get into Harvard, to get that status. And then all of a sudden, ChatGPT shows up to the party.
Yeah, it's scary. And honestly, it's scary as someone who has done the academic route, but it's really horrifying as a creative too. Because, a lot of that more academic dry material, you're like, okay, if that was, we kind of saw the trends going towards things being more automated and, you have the internet, people can look things up, it's information. But now that that's like replacing creative processes, people writing and coming up with things originally, and that's where I'm really, really concerned, because that takes away, there's such a human element in that creation process. And when you take that away, it's like, what now?
For all intents and purposes, if we were looking at from an art perspective, and before we get started, this is Alissa Musto. Welcome to the Tragedy Academy, a show created to bridge societal divides in a judgment-free zone. Gary's in studio too. What's going on, brother?
How you doing? Nice to have you on today, Alissa.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Likewise, super happy to have you here. We got disconnected last year. You ended up going down, getting sick, and then we had a whole bunch of stuff going on. So finally got you in.
I know, yeah.
And we're sitting here talking to Alissa. This is just a side conversation that came up, but it's really important as creators that we understand what this new tool is, because it's not going away. And we'll probably have to find ways to leverage a new style of creativity or art. I like to think that we move in levels, and we built AI and all of these technologies to make our lives easier. Unfortunately, we don't go run around and play in the playground afterwards. We try to make more of them.
Right.
But at the same time, there's a lot of human input that's gone into it, and it's utilizing the human mind's ability to create, but on a massive scale. And what I've seen so far is that it doesn't come up with the ideas on its own. It's based on what you want it to create.
Right. It makes the process easier. It gives shortcuts to the process. I was messing around with it a few days ago because I'm like, how much will it do? What do you want it to do? Yeah, I went down that rabbit hole, and I've been writing a bunch of music lately, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to try different processes. I'm going to see what works next, what works the best. And I'm, trying to find better ways to say certain lines. And AI is telling me
lyric writing,
a lyric for a line where I'm like, oh, wow, that's better than what I thought of. And
you're not wrong.
Who just thought of that? Or, I initially was like, okay, maybe I could find some different words so I could find like better rhymes. No, it's going to tell you the whole line. It's going to come up with an entire line.
Beats per minute, tempo, you can change it. You can make it like iambic pentameter if you want, whatever the hell you want to do to it. My question is, what's the difference between that and a thesaurus? Time?
Definitely time. And, I also write where I refuse to have any technology at all. So I was also the other day sitting on a beach, and I was just there with my notebook and my paper and, writing things. And things came to me that way as well, but it's a different sort of way. I'm thinking, I thought too, would the computer have told me this? Would I have been able to come up with this on the computer? No, probably not. But was it that much better that, a few lines required, hours and hours and hours, where, some of this AI material is just being whipped out instantaneously. So I don't know. I don't have the answer to that yet.
How can you know? But at the same time, art is about passion, right? It's love. Love in a artistic form, in some way, shape, or form. We're creating that way. And I'd like to think, because I don't want to think that it's over. Like, it can't be over like that. That breaks my heart. But I'd like to think that we will find new ways to express the passion and the art through this, but in a manner where we're able to, what's the best way to describe this? If I were looking at it from the outside in and I was trying to navigate it to get like pieces of art out of it, and I asked it to give me, a line that sounded, that was about the death of a family member, and it made it feel as if I had gone through it myself, something like that, right? Because you can ask it that,
Right.
and it spits it out. But what if when I read it, I'm like, it makes me cry?
Right.
What if it's the right line?
It evokes that. Yeah.
So when I choose that line and I place it in my song with that feeling, that soul, doesn't it carry that energy? And at the same time, quantum mechanics tells us that everything exists at the same time.
Right.
So aren't we basically just giving ourselves the same thing through ChatGPT, but we just don't realize it? The faster manner?
Right.
I'm
Right.
getting way outside the box.
No, you're 100% right though. I mean, and the thing about AI technology in general, it's only as smart as the user, and it's only as smart as the person that creates it. So if we are inputting what we feel and what we want it to do, and it has that result, then yeah, it probably can accomplish a little bit better and more efficiently than we are. And it doesn't need to be 100% perfect, because if you like that line or you like parts of it, then you can go in and put your own spin on
It's
it
a
or
frame.
change your word. Right, that's true. It gives you like the skeleton
Yep.
of what you're trying to do. No,
And
it will be interesting in the future to see
there's a lot in AI music
how
as
that's
well.
going on. Yeah.
Samples and instruments and things like that. And Gary and I both produce music, and he's an artist as well. And we spend most of our time. I didn't grow up with instruments. I grew up very poor. Didn't have, we only got the recorder that you got your ass fucking beat with for playing Three Blind Mice
Right.
for like
Hot
3
cross
hours.
buns
Hot cross
every
buns
single
and shit.
day.
Exactly. So I got into music about 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, and it was through a digital audio workstation. And as soon as I heard it, it became an instrument to me. Everything that I looked through, and I don't know that I played any different than anybody else that worked through it any different, but I don't have school training or anything, and I do everything by ear. But to me, it's a world. When I'm in there choosing samples and things like that, and the reason why I'm asking this is because you are a classically trained pianist, guitarist. Is the ukulele considered something extra that you would call it? A ukuleleist?
A ukulele, I'm not good. I'm certainly not good enough at the ukulele to be considered a
Whatever.
ukulelist.
I don't even know if that's a word.
I don't know either. I don't know the jargon behind it, but I do. I play bass guitar, drums, ukulele, piano, and I've studied that like for a long time. And there is something that's a little bit weird about when you studied an instrument and you put those hours and hours in, being able to work your way up to a certain level, and then now that can be replaced instantly. It's a little weird. And then it's funny you say about the AI and the electric space that instruments are in, because now we can do things that regular instruments can't actually do. We can actually hit tones and notes that don't really exist.
What were we talking about the other day, Gary? What was it that we were talking about from it was an MPC instrument.
Oh yeah, they have a new, MPC makes all the drum machines and everything. They have a new, it looks like a flute, but it's like an electric flute, but it could be a saxophone or a clarinet or whatever, but it still requires wind. But I want to buy one just to see what it's like, but I think it's interesting because you still have to play it, but
it's like you're trying to bring an electric genie out of a
right. But that's so interesting, because like with an instrument like that, you actually there's a physical limitation how much you can breathe and
right.
But if you're not having to do any of that,
that note
that
could just sit
totally
there.
changes like the constructs of what you can do with that instrument. It's wild to think
it's
about.
An interesting time. I think live performances are going to become more and more important too. So you can't play the piano, you can't play the damn piano. So if you're sitting up there and on a stage, that chat AI is not going to help you. And I think I think it's a big deal too. But I think I'm completely torn on this because I'm a hip hop guy. I'm a purist. We used to get shot at in shootouts over rap battles, and if you stole someone's lines or bit somebody's style, like people used to get killed over that. And it was a very serious thing, and you never wanted to be a biter or steal anybody's stuff. But we did use, it's the only time you'd see a kid in the hood with a dictionary or a thesaurus that would steal from the library.
Yeah, the 8 miles sitting on the bus with the pen and the pad, scratching it into the back of it, getting those lines out.
And you used what you had at your disposal. Like, people didn't say that these turntables were instruments before. They made fun of kids that would use those and said that none of that was real. You need to learn how to play the trumpet and everything. And then, an art form was created from that. But now it's like, it seems too easy in some ways. So I'm torn on the fact, and I really want to start learning how to play the real drums, since I want to play in the, finger drums and the drum pads and stuff, get back to the roots on certain things. So I think hopefully that helps, bring some people over into playing real instruments too, that got started like that. It's going to be a debate in music forever as technology grows so quickly, I think.
I think it'll fade. Just like everything else does. There'll be purists. There'll be people. It's kind of like the gasoline car. That'll be gone. Somebody's will be like, oh, you're no good unless you play a guitar that's acoustic. It's never going to sound the same. But they're also the same people that lost their minds when Peter Frampton started blowing into a fucking tube in his guitar. And they're like, oh, this is fantastic. This is no different than picking up your electric saxophone and tooting into that thing either. I think that these are tools.
Yeah.
And that the artist chooses how they use them, because we've seen time and time again shows like America's Got Talent, where people bring something. You'll have like 10 singers in the row, and then all of a sudden somebody comes out with some wild ass reinvention of music, dance, lights, lasers, and you're just sitting there like a pig staring at a wristwatch. You don't know what the fuck's going on, and it's a whole new world going forward.
Yeah.
Every time. I think it's all about who's the one that's creating the art, and if they're doing it to make art. If you're doing it to make money, it's going to sound like you're trying to make money.
Well, and the other thing too, it's interesting you say like when you have that visual of people coming out, because it's going to be one thing, you're going to have musicians and creators, but being a performer is a whole different thing. So it will be interesting to see as these new artists come out and their music's coming out, what does that look like when people want to go to a show? Are they able to put on a performance? Are they that dynamic in real life? Or is it going to be more of a divide between like the performer and the musician? Or, are we going to see more creators writing more for artists and then they're two separate entities? I don't know.
Well, I love that you brought that particular point up, people writing for artists. I had somebody that I interviewed a long time ago that said that they were very in touch with who they were. And I was looking for an assistant. And this young lady had said to me, she's like, look, I'm not a performer. I'm not a person that's going to be on social media and an influencer or anything of that game. She's like, I have a base level dopamine level that creators don't have, because creators have ADHD. They run around like chickens with their heads cut off, and they grab things out of the sky, put it together in moments. But there is a separate group of people that are actuaries, writers, people that can do tasks like that, and it's their art. So maybe we're giving more of a voice to the people that didn't have anything but a recorder, and now they have the opportunity to create things for people and get a new voice. Maybe we're giving a voice to the underprivileged. Maybe we're giving a voice to the people that are in remote areas that can't tell their story.
True.
Because music is a story, and it's about bringing people together. So I like to try to think positively about it.
Yeah.
So just so everybody knows, Alyssa's a very talented musician, but you want to tell everybody kind of the path that your music has taken you, where you started, and kind of how we all met, and then where you are now.
Yeah, definitely. So I first and foremost, I grew up in a family of professional musicians. My dad was a piano player. I started playing the piano. I was 4 years old. My mom got me this guitar at a garage sale. I would sit down by the door when my dad would be going to his shows at night, and I'd be like, hey, take me to work with you. And he's like, hey, if you learn how to play an instrument, then I will. And I started playing piano. I was 4 years old. I could read music before I knew how to read.
Wow.
And I remember those are like some of my earliest memories was, them trying to teach me like the notes, on the staff, on the treble clef, you have, face and every good boy. And I'm not understanding that because I don't know that every good, I don't know what letters that things start with. So those are some of my earliest memories. Like
how did you compensate for that? Because I think that the human mind is pretty damn amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And you find that some people that when they're lacking a certain input to describe something, that they start finding alternative items to place. I've heard a lot of times that it can be color.
Mm-hmm.
It can be smell. It can be all sorts of weird things, but people will plot a graph and see things that way versus, how somebody else would take it in. Every good boy does fine, or whatever the old acronyms are.
Yeah. Well, honestly, for me, I always had a good ear. So I became less reliant on having to read the music and then just, this sounded right. My dad would also do this game with me with the flashcards. And it was more about like memorizing it as a picture and like what color the card was. Like it's like kind of cheating. Like what color the card was, or like if a card had a certain little bend on it, like I would remember they would be that note. So it was like a matter of memorizing it visually without having like a comprehension that a letter had a coordination with the note.
Right. It just became an abstract item that plugged that hole.
Right. Exactly. Like if you were to show a stick figure.
Couldn't agree with you more. And that's how sound works for me. I was explaining to Gary one time, because we talk about how we put music together. And I don't have music theory background. I played a little guitar when I was younger. I tried to hack at it, whatever. But I did sing in a Southern Baptist choir growing
up. Okay.
So that was where my love of music started. And when I make music, I don't have any ability to read the shit. Like it might as well be just throwing Scrabble tiles with notes on it into a fucking bag. Like it's not working for me. But what I'll do is, say you want to record a song in the key of D minor.
Right.
That's pretty broad. Pretty fucking broad. I bet I can go in there and I can look through 10,000 samples in D minor and play them all over each other, one after another, after another, after another, and match which ones I like, how I like it, and then go back and recreate an entire scene. That's how I make my music. I don't have any other way to do it. I don't have time to learn how to read and write it. Don't care. Like if I can hear a trumpet sound like a trumpet and this has this note, those two notes go together.
Yeah.
Those two notes go together. That's the only way I know how to do it. Gary will tell you, I do weird sounds. Like we've done some challenges with the show. Gary, one time he gave me he gave me his beard clippers.
I was playing, he always takes weird sounds. So I was shaving one morning and I got the idea of, all right, I'm going to record the sound of the zzz,
right.
And then I'm going to send it to him and challenge him to make, a beat out of it. I ended up with leaving my wallet in my pants once, and the dryer was thumping.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like a bass drum.
That's cool. That's real cool.
I was like, all right, it kind of sounds like a bass drum. Try that one. They've been pretty fun.
It's a blast, and I don't really care whether or not I can read it. I don't feel like anybody should ever gatekeep art by based on their knowledge versus somebody else's. And I enjoy it. To me, it's the one place that. It was the thing I didn't have growing up.
That's the most important thing, that you enjoy it. And that's what music is supposed to do. It's supposed to be that universal language. It's supposed to be that no matter where you're from or no matter what your background is, it's something you can participate in and appreciate and be part of. It's interesting though, because a lot of people don't read music because that's just not how their brain works. And I find a lot of people are one way or the other. They're either a total ear learner and they can hear something and they can match that melody and they're picking it up. They have an ear for it. And then I also know a lot of musicians that, man, you take that music away from them when they're performing and it's like,
wow,
what happens now? So I think a lot of it just depends on how you grew up listening to it.
This is true.
A lot of people who are very structured and formally trained, you take that music away from them and they need, all the help that they can get moving on from there. It's like a one way or the other sort of thing.
You can tell when the person is either mathematical and going through the motions, because I feel like there's two different types. There's a session musician, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that you and I could probably agree that a session musician is a very gifted musician, but they tend not to have that one extra extroverted quality that would be, not that their art wasn't on that level, it's that they didn't even want to take their art to the next level.
Right. Well, and honestly, that's a great quality to have in a session musician because they're being hired to perform somebody else's art. You don't want a session musician to go in there and be like, I'm going to take my own artistic liberty here. And, I think it should be this way. It's like, no, you're being paid to do it that way. So it's, you're right. They won't take it. And it's like, in that context, it's almost it's a good quality.
It's your actuary of music. It's your guy that's the operations manager.
And with all these artists, man, you need somebody, because you get too many artists in one place and like, there's going to be no...
We romanticize artists. We romanticize what an artist is, and we like to want to be other artists when we're not supposed to be.
Right.
Everything out there replicated is garbage. It's just it's an homage to somebody else who put in the time or had the inspiration.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that, but that's what we've done as a society is we replicate music, we replicate it. We'll burn a sample into the ground or, every particular genre. We'll do it over and over again. They'll get on the legs, and then all of a sudden someone else will pop up and we'll fall in love with that, and then it'll get repeated again. We'll start following them. But the only one we care about is that first one.
Yeah.
That first one generally doesn't make any money off of it. They usually fall off into obscurity or die from whatever gave them the soul to be able to, stand up on stage like that once or twice. Winehouse, Kurt Cobain,
right?
All those people.
Whitney Houston.
Jeez. Whitney Houston. That my wife and I argue about that one though, because she plays it and I get burnt out on her. I lived in Tokyo for 5 years. There's a lot of karaoke, and Whitney Houston is like everybody's want to try, no matter where you are.
That in Journey. Too many people try to sing
Journey. The lead singer's from Japan, and he's amazing.
Yeah, he is awesome. I have to say, I saw him earlier in Tampa this year, and I was like, this guy is good. He is really good. He's like what everybody's trying to be in karaoke.
100%. Like, he fit the bill. But I'll tell you, that's one of the things that I loved about living over there is the artists that I did meet, musicians, tattoo artists, dancers, things like that. It's a whole nother level. It was a love affair that you saw a lot more people making it because they wanted to make it, not making it because somebody else made it.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that is. Maybe I'm just jaded because I live in the Western world and I tend to think that everything's nefarious or everything's on the take. But I just feel like I saw that more. Maybe it was just the people that I was connecting with at the time. Curious I want to kind of back up to how we met, right? Mm-hmm. Last year you were going to come on. This was not long after the pandemic was starting to kind of cool off.
Yeah.
You were from the cruise industry and were an entertainer on a boat.
Yes.
That's a very unique experience, especially with what's going on.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us what that was like and how that drove you to writing some of the music that you have now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was prior to COVID, I spent 2 years, pretty much 2 years straight, like living and working on cruise ships. When I went home, it was for like a week at a time and then right back out. And I mean, I can honestly tell you, I think I will always look back at that. That was like one of the best times of my life because I just got to do what I love to do. I got to go out and perform for audiences.
No bills?
No bills. I tell people that all the time. I didn't have to cook. I didn't have to clean. I didn't have any bills. I had to pay a cell phone bill. And
big whoop.
Right, exactly. And your friends all live in the same hallway as you, and
it's like being in the military, kind of.
People I've talked to about it said it's like the military. Some people have said it's like college, which I'm like, it's less like college because we work a lot less. And then, I mean, I was surrounded. There's so many different performers on a cruise ship that you're just around, like all these creative minds all the time
it's gotta be amazing.
From around the world. And it's so amazing because everybody's there for the same reason. And like another thing that's really cool about cruise ship workers is that everybody took that leap. Like everybody was like, I am sick of this shit from where I grew up and I want to get as far away from it as possible. And
very military. Wow.
So everybody like has that mentality. They're like, okay, I'm here for the adventure. Like I'm okay with leaving what I left behind. You don't see a lot of people that are like homesick or shy. Everybody's very like outgoing. Everybody's like, all right, I'm ready to do this.
We have a very dear friend, Nick. He's a dancer and he was on cruise ships and in 80s videos. And I'm with you. I get exactly the extroverted happy, just ready to. I feel like people on a cruise ship utilize the energy that we wish we had year round, and they get to exploit it year round off of the people that are there to have fun for 1 week at a time.
Exactly. That's the other thing. We're around people that want to have a good time. You know, so many people, they go to their job, they're around people who are pissed off.
All curmudgeon.
Right. Like, if you're going on a cruise and you're pissed off and you're in a bad mood, like, you got something wrong with you. Everybody's there partying on vacation. You're just around people that are there to have fun.
I do like the idea of the old curmudgeoned magician in like the corner of like the crappy piano bar where nobody's at, pulling shit out of a hat, bitching.
Oh, God damn it.
Right. Yeah. There's always like one jaded person. There always are a few performers, though. It's funny you say that, like the magician that's like, you know, been doing this shtick way too long. They're like 40 years in. They're using a headshot from 25 years ago. You're like,
got a Burt Reynolds mustache.
Yeah.
For real.
I've had enough of this shit. Last year, I swear. Never again.
Right, exactly.
Another phone again.
This is my last contract. Never doing this again.
Yeah,
Never.
This rabbit has mange. This rabbit is angry. He pulls it out and it's got like fucking fur missing. It's just one eye.
Right.
Never want to see another ocean again.
It's true. But so all this, and this is happening, and there's like 300 cruise ships all over the world. So
that's it? Why did I feel like there were a shit ton more?
Yeah,
there's only like 300 of those little
things.
It's like
350, yeah, something like that.
They're pretty big.
I guess they are.
They are. There's like 2,000 people plus like 1,000 crew. So this is, you know, all these little worlds happening on all 300 whatever of these cruise ships. And then COVID happens and it like stops overnight. And at first we're like, okay, we're gonna take like a month-long break. That's what they told us.
Yeah.
I'll never.
My job too.
I will never forget that, like the night before everything completely shut down. I was on a cruise ship. I had just done a show. We had been told, okay, operations are about to end. It's like midnight and I get a call from the agent back stateside. And he's like, okay, you need to pack your bags. And I was also manager for the agency on that ship. So I was responsible for a couple of other performers too.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you need to go tell everybody to pack their bags and be ready to leave. And I'm like, well, do we have flight information? And he's like, nope. You guys need to be ready.
Get the F off that boat while you can.
Right. And I was like, oh man, this feels like some sort of spy movie. Like this is
apocalyptic shit.
Yeah. And we were in Mexico, and at first, you know,
last place you want to be when all of the shit in the world goes down. Like, I don't want to be there when there's no electricity or other apocalyptic things in a place I can't speak English.
Well, and the thing is, at first, it was like cool for a couple, because in some of the other countries, they didn't really like care as much as we did right away. And especially on the cruise ships, all the passengers went home. I had friends who were like, oh, this is great. Everybody, you know, we just don't have to do anything all day. We're not. Well, that like after 2 weeks, the CDC was like, all right, we got to stop this bullshit. And it was like, everybody's confined to their room for 22 out of the 24 hours a day. Now, some of those rooms don't have windows, and they're like the size of half this studio. They're very, very small.
They're quarters.
Yeah.
They're just basically a place to sleep. You don't bring your fucking extra goods when you're on a boat.
You don't bring anything. You're not, you're really not spending that much time in there. So everybody's like confined to their rooms. They have limited internet. Their countries are not letting them back in. So, you know, the boat will be like docked there in Florida, and there's American citizens, and they're not letting them like back into America. I mean, some of the stories I heard.
Yeah, I got to say, if I'm at the dock and I'm on that boat, I'm taking a chance on a high dive at that point. Like, it's not far. Like, if we're on the ocean, no, not happening. I'm pretty sure I'd die. But if we're already at the dock and I can look down over the side, I've seen enough people jump off a cliff. So you put me 2 weeks sitting in a stinky room with Mark, Bob, and Chuck, and nobody can flush a toilet anymore, I'm going off the side of that bitch in a swan dive.
I mean, some of the stories, because then they were like, well, people can't fly. If we allow them off the ship, they can't go on a commercial flight. well, okay, these are cruise ship workers. Nobody's taking their private jet back to Ohio.
Yeah, they're going back to Indonesia, like it says on their name tag,
Right.
to where they were sending all their money to because they got a job on a ship. Very
Right.
fortunately.
Right.
Good
Exactly. I
thing he's
mean,
really from Kentucky.
I did know people whose like parents and aunts and uncles drove like 16, 18 hours to go pick them up
Wow.
somewhere just because it was like, well, there's a slight chance they may be able to get off. And this was going on for months. I mean, some of the stories I heard were atrocious. Like they're so sad. I knew, I heard a story where a man who was working on board, his wife died back in the Philippines while giving birth to their child, and they would not let him get off the ship. And it's like,
that's so sad.
and there were
terrible.
so many stories like that. There were cruise
Because life still goes on.
Yeah. Yeah. There were suicides. I knew people who went in and found a crew member who had hung himself. I mean, it was so sad. It was so sad what was going on. I mean, they were not treating these people like human beings, and just nobody was talking about it. Like everybody, had their own shit going on. Honestly, we were all home. We were all confined. We were all quarantined. But it was like nobody's talking. I mean, it was like it was May 1st. So that's probably like 2.5 months after. There were still like 100,000 crew members that were stuck on board that they were not letting home.
So I want to point out something. When you're in an environment with a group of people for years at a time, traveling the world and living through all of these experiences with, they become your family.
Yeah.
Right. And what I hear you saying is that you got the opportunity to go home and your friends and now family to you are on this boat suffering while you get the, quote unquote comforts of home.
Right.
And get to watch them. And it sounds almost like you would have a form of like a survivor's guilt of some sort.
100%.
And that it would just, I know me personally, I would want to go stand back outside the boat and just wait there just out of sheer shame or pain or whatever we've been told to feel for somebody else's situation.
I felt terrible. I felt so bad. And part of it was knowing my privilege and knowing, because, I have a platform and I know that if I was confined to a cruise ship and I made a big stink about it and I called up my congressman and then the response is going to be a little bit different than some of these people who are from third world countries.
If Miss Massachusetts calls her congressman and says, I'm stuck on a cruise ship, they're going to come get you.
It's just going to become a bigger conversation when some of these people who are working for less than minimum wage from third world countries, they're not, it's just not being talked about. And it was so upsetting to me. It was disheartening. And that's when I wrote my song, How Still, because I said there has to be something that I could do, because I was writing to Congress. I was getting on the phone. I was making phone calls. I was writing articles for every publication that would print an open ed, being like, hey, this is what's going on. These are my friends. This is my family. And nobody's talking about this. I get it. Everybody's like sad that they're at home with their kids who can't go to school. But this is so tragic what's going on. And nobody's talking about it. And the music video was really the first thing that, got a little bit of attention, because what I did is I contacted a lot of my friends that were on board and I said, hey, can you just like write a note, hold it up, letting people know what you want the world to know about the cruise industry? Because another thing is people were like very cruel about it. People are like, well, the cruises are the reason that we have COVID and this is how it's spread. And we can't just like let those people off. And it was gross. Yeah.
We're so paranoid as humans. We'll make up some fucking crazy shit. And if nobody there checks it, it'll become a fact. Like if it gets written down once in a book and nobody says anything for about 20 years and then it's reopened, that for some reason as humans, time creates facts. And it's not true. It's a big fucking lie. Just because I wrote down that there were purple dinosaurs doesn't mean that there were purple dinosaurs.
People were blaming the cruises, but it's like, even if you want to blame that, I get it. People are in close quarters. That has nothing to do with the crew.
No.
That has nothing to do with the crews working their ass off who have not been able to get home. Anyway, so all these people sent in their notes, and then their friends of friends, obviously it grows. So I got hundreds and hundreds of people sending in their like messages. They want people to know, saying that they miss people at home, that they just want people to hear their story. I put this all together in a music video. and I put it out there into the world. And ABC responded, and they did an interview and were able to showcase that nationally, and a few other big platforms back in Massachusetts, told the story. And I said, like, music has always been the way that I've been able to express myself, communicate what I have to say. People are a little bit more inclined to listen when it's in a song, when it's in a palatable format. But
it's a language.
Even more important than that for me was the number of crew workers, that honestly, I'm going to get emotional like talking about it. The number of crew workers that I've never met. It's such like a camaraderie that we have, working at sea and being at sea. There's just like such an understanding that I don't need to know those people, but they're still my brothers and sisters. They're writing to me, telling me, hey, like, listening to your song got me through a really, really hard time. I'm sitting here in this room 20 hours a day, and I don't have an outlet. I don't have, a way to communicate with my family and things like that. And but listening to your song made me realize that somebody else gets it, and somebody else knows what we're going through.
How did that make you feel?
It made me realize that that's what I was put on this earth to do. It's my music is supposed to help people and give a voice to people that don't have that opportunity. And I remember I was a little girl. My dad used to take me to nursing homes to sing for the residents and Alzheimer's units and all different sorts of situations.
And that's where the robots won't take over.
Yeah.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
It is. Going to the nursing home and helping people, they're going through something terrible, and putting your heart into it. You might have got a lyric or two out of that thing, maybe, if it existed at the time, but what you did helped thousands of people.
And when I was a kid, I didn't realize it. I'm a little kid. I don't think about that. But you're singing for an audience of people who they don't have visitors all day. They're there. They're lonely. A lot of them can't remember what they ate for breakfast that morning, but they're hearing these songs from their childhood and they're singing along every single word. And, I look back now and music is just like has such a healing property. It brings comfort to people in their worst moments. And I feel like a responsibility as a performer to address that and to use my music to give people what they need at that time, because you never know what somebody's going through. If the way that I can help and the way that I can provide comfort and support is through my music, then I'm in my eyes, I'm doing it right.
And that's a beautiful way to look at it. And I think that we all should. We're perfect. We're perfectly imperfect. We're made to be one way. And you were designed with a gift, and that was being able to create music and share with others. What we tend to forget is that we speak more than one language or one type of language. We can speak verbally to each other all day long, but music and sounds and things like that, they go above and beyond that because they can communicate where languages fail. Languages fail to bring people together because they are in and of themselves a divisive piece.
Right.
They're made to describe things to one side, not the other side. But with music, it brings people together because notes speak all the languages.
Yeah.
Notes don't speak individual. When they're combined, they go across the spectrum. That's why somebody, in Iraq and somebody in Uzbekistan and somebody in the US can all listen to something and it can elicit the same feeling.
Yeah.
We know that if there's a down tempo with a bass drum and it's slow and it's starting to speed up, what does that mean? We're about to fucking go to war. It's time. We're beating something up. We know that if there's like a very soft, angelic voice of some sort, that we're going to be calm and we're going to be mystified and we're going to be, peaceful. There's something to be said about that language and those that have the ability to speak it. There is an onus on creators. There's an onus on every human to utilize the skills that they've been gifted by whomever or whatever created us to give back to those around us. And the moment that you begin to create from the heart, because I would say not that you didn't create from the heart before, but it sounds like you had an experience. The moment that you were able to put pen to paper and create your music for something greater than yourself, it starts to take on a new form, it becomes something different inside of us.
Yeah.
I like to think of that as the moment that we remove that glass from over the flame, and then it's allowed to burn uninhibited, and it attracts people to us because now they can see who we are.
Right.
We're not ashamed of it anymore. We're going to take those risks. I think that music is risk. A lot of people will stick within those boundaries, the notes, and I'm going to only do these songs and I'm going to do this kind of stuff. And then one guy steps up to the mic and just fucking caterwauls, screams his ass off and plays the blues. And all of a sudden, nobody told him to do that.
Right.
He had to have the chops to make up a new sound. A new sound in music is a very scary thing to come up with because the music industry does not like new people.
Right.
No,
they don't like things changing from the scripts. I mean, the music industry puts a lot of money into what they think is going to work.
They put a lot of money into the second song.
Yeah. Right. The first one, that's a huge risk, taking that as
nobody supports the first song, but the person fucking putting out the first song.
It's true. It's so true. And like the other thing too is, that guy that's the first one to do it, that goes out there and just absolutely wails and kills it. He doesn't know necessarily why he's doing it. He doesn't know if he's doing it for the greater good.
God, that's a great way to say it.
But like, people will hear that shit and like, yo, I don't know why, but I was moved by that. I felt that. That just did something for me. I mean, and that's like how change is made when you're just doing your thing as an artist and people can get behind that because they're like, I felt that. I identify with that. I feel that. That's me.
I think we know. Gary, when you produce music or when you work on art, you told me before that you utilize where you've come from as kind of a catalyst for how you put things together. I'm curious because your art is different than my art. It's different than her art. Where do you pull those things from and how do you apply them?
Like, it's a lot of it's the mood that I'm in. A lot of music I make is like very soul and Motown influenced. And I grew up with my mom playing that in the house. And, and it was that era, I'm 43 years old. So I grew up really when hip hop was getting big and I started getting into music around 12 years old, which is 1990. And around that time, and that's when people started sampling music. And it was a really good culture and time to be around. So we had the old timers, and then they were sharing their records. And I was talking about music with my mom and people, and we had a place called Downtown Records. There's an old Jewish, this sounds like a movie, old Jewish guy named Saul Moss.
Yeah, it does.
Downtown Cleveland. And we would ride our bikes. Like, it would take almost 2 hours to get there. And this is through enemy territory. I mean, war zones. I mean, I used to steal my grandpa's gun. It had one bullet in it. He had it in this little lunch bag, and I had to put it in my Timberland boot to drive it down there. He had lunch written in pen on this bag gun, and he carried it for 20 years. And it's crazy.
Brilliant.
My cousin still has it, and I would steal that to go to this place. And we'd go down there, and like Wu-Tang, Cream song came out, and he would tell us what record that they sampled, and he would play the old school record for us. And they got this education, and it's part of this community. And so a lot of my music comes from that and finding these old samples and like trying to dig up shit that's the B-side or an artist that never made it. Cause I think it's like the yeast of like a sourdough or the starter or whatever that could last hundreds of years. Like, I could take some record that someone put their soul into and it just never got that big. And I could take 4 bars of it, or, I could take just a little thing and loop it and make it into something new that people could enjoy now. And they might sample my record in 20 years. So a lot of it comes from like my roots and like that feeling. Some of it's like anger. Like, if I'm having a really bad day, it's going to be upbeat, like music that you could picture like a boxer walking out to. And,
right.
I'll use like a lot more orchestrated sounds and, or heavy violins, or, drums are going to be harder and more angry. And some days, I'll smoke a little weed and just chill out, and it's going to be very lo-fi. And I think it's like I express myself and how I'm feeling at the time is normally what it's going to be. And first thing I did when I had COVID really bad and I had pneumonia, and I'm just coming out of it, and I was really sick. And, I was just like, I got to play happy music till my mood gets better. Like, I was playing some sad shit and everything. And I'm like, I can't do that and just like wallow in my own fucking what was me. So I just started playing upbeat soul stuff and, and just
Bill Withers.
pounding
That's
on the
my
drum
go-to a
machine.
lot of the times. I know it's so corny, but Bill Withers can get me out of a funk so quick.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's one good. And I'm glad you brought that up, man, because I feel like so many artists do that. If they're like kind of down and sad, they're like, well, let me just feel. And they're like listening to more sad, depressing shit, and they're writing more. And it's like, there's definitely a time and place for that. There is, but it's like if it's gonna continue you being in this dark place,
that's different.
Then you need to be able to recognize, like, okay, this is going a little too far, and I need to pick myself out of this.
Well, you fall in love with it.
True.
It's a comfortable place to be in. Any status that you can be in can become comfortable.
Yeah.
And if it's a depressive state and that's what you're writing, and ooh, baby, if somebody gives you accolades for being depressed, son of a bitch, that's got to be hard to knock off. Look, you're amazing. You do depressed the best. Fuck. Talk about somebody stealing your shit.
Yeah.
Right in there. But makes sense. Why wouldn't you kill yourself then?
Well, it's funny you say that. Like, I knew a musician, and he said, he's like, the best stuff I write is like, my breakup songs. So it's like, does it become this self-fulfilling prophecy? You're like, oh, let me fuck up this relationship just so I have some good material.
It's the only time he allows himself to feel.
Yeah. That's probably it. I mean, we tap into weird places.
We're meant to exercise those things.
Yeah.
We don't do that as humans. We've found this really cool thing, cancer, that we like to create by stuffing shit down into like different parts of our body and never screaming, writing it out, singing it through, lifting the weights, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. You will have, I have responses, like emotional responses during my music. Mm-hmm. If I'm creating something, and I'll get to a certain point, because I do things for the guests as well. I like to choose certain guests and put together like an original piece of music that makes me, it's kind of like a soundtrack of some sort. It's just how they inspire me. And there are times, depending on what it is, that I'll have tears in my eyes when I find the right combination of sounds. Mm-hmm. When the sounds hit exactly in a row that I've been just picking through. And then all of a sudden, it's like you can hear 3 chords go bang. And you're like, yes. You jump up. You'll have tears. Sometimes I'm jumping around the studio. I told him I was going to get the foot cam. I have a foot problem when I'm making music that my foot goes insane. Whenever I found what I like, my foot starts going just ape shit.
I feel that like there are definitely moments where I'm writing and I just like, I'll write something I'm like, whoa, oh man, that hit me like in a way that I was, and it's definitely a little bit more of a subdue reaction than you have, but it's like that affects the same, where it's just like,
it's warm.
Oh, like that just, okay, that's it. That's it. That's it. And it just like hits you differently.
I think a lot of music is probably ruined through second guessing.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, everyone wants their record to be perfect, and it's like it's not going to be perfect. And you can just you can always well, it needs improvement, it needs this, it needs that. Like you can edit it to death, and then it loses its authenticity.
You're only editing it
millions
to make
of records die that way.
Yeah,
millions and millions of records are on people's laptops or on old reel by reel or an old DAT or whatever, are just dead because
I bet there's a MacBook with Mac Miller's shit on it that would blow your goddamn mind.
Yeah, the real heartfelt shit sometimes just this song doesn't play into the, the structure that the radio would play, or it's a 12-minute song or a 90-second song, or it doesn't really have a hook or a chorus.
It's too niche, right?
Ready, but if you listen to it, it would move you and you would feel it.
And that's the one we would have loved.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never was a Mac Miller fan because I was just hating on the younger generation, and I heard his Tiny Desk concert.
That was it for me.
NPR, and he just started singing, and it fucking made me cry like nothing else that has made me cry before, musically like that. And it was just him singing. It wasn't rapping. It was just somebody's heart just being poured out like I've never seen. And
it was real.
I became a huge fan after that. But that series is really cool. But just put somebody with heart that will just dump it out there in front of a microphone and let them go, and you'll get the best stuff.
That concert, when you showed it to me, because much like yourself, Mac Miller sounded like somebody that was from a frat that was saying some stupid shit that I wouldn't have nothing to do with.
Yeah, it was called frat rap.
Why was that frat rap? It was so not
term.
frat. He
When
did
first
not
came out,
represent
he was
any of that.
talking about. At first, he was coming out talking about drinking Milwaukee's best, and like it was just that Pennsylvania fraternity kind of
Right,
stuff,
like Sammy Adams
until
type thing. Yeah.
he like found himself, But man, that if whoever's listening or if you haven't heard that, just go to Mac Miller Tiny Desk Concerts on NPR on YouTube or whatever, and
Dude,
just listen to him sing.
He's the reason why I bought that mic sitting over there right there, is because it reaffirmed my. I'm gonna make a stab at singing again, and I'm gonna make my stab my own way. I'm not gonna pick up karaoke. I'm not gonna put a whole bunch of songs in front of me like, I'm going to sing this artist and put it on Instagram and see if everybody likes me a little bit as much as they did that person. No,
Right.
I'm going to make some shit that nobody has ever fucking had no business being out before now.
Yep.
And I want to have fun with it. And after watching him, I was like, you can do it your way. You really can. Everybody's got their own style. It's about what you invoke.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can invoke something, fuck it, go for it. Maybe it's half motivational, half blues, half fucking falsetto. Who knows? As long as you're having fun with it. I want to shift gears. Oh, wait, go ahead first.
I just had a kind of a question for Alissa, like about something similar. It's hard to put yourself out there, and I've always had like this extrovert gene, and but I have friends that are phenomenal that never have. You put yourself out there since you were a kid.
Yeah.
To perform in front of people, competitions, all different types, to be judged, and I'm sure you won tons and lost some. And, how is it to go out there and put your art to be judged by other people? Well, whether it's an actual competition or just people in the audience, and able to just keep doing it and, and push through the downs and ups. And, how have you been able to do it for so long?
Oh, I mean, honestly, that's the hardest part is putting out my own original music. It's crazy. Like even at a show where the whole crowd loves me and, I'm doing great. Someone's like, can you play more original music? I'm like, oh,
give me more Piano Man.
All right. But dude, it's scary.
That's got to be hard.
Because like putting out your own stuff, that is a part of you. That's a part of you that you're very protective of. Your songs are your creation. I don't have kids. Those are my little creation, my little things that I put into the world.
Heart's in the rib cage for a reason, inside the chest for a reason, because it needs protection. And every bit of that music and every bit of that art, when it's made and it's put out there for judgment, it's like having your heart worn on a necklace.
Right.
Right there to be punched.
Right. And I write personal stuff. I write, I definitely, my generation, we grew up, everyone was like, millennials, they're like, okay, be careful what you put on Facebook because your future employers are going to see this. This was like, this is all you heard in 2013. Like, just be, and it's like, I would never put some dumb shit on Facebook, but like, here I am writing, everything that just happened in my last relationship. And I'm going to like put it out there for the world. And hey, maybe millions of people will like it if I'm lucky. So it's such a weird concept. But the thing is, you have to just like completely disattach from it. And if you're like, well, if people don't like my music, that's great. They have 50 billion other artists that they can go listen to. I don't write it for them. I write for me. And then if some people like it or if it helps some people, then, that's cool. I always say there are certain things that I do for art and there's certain things I do for commerce. If people don't like my shows when I go out there, I do have a problem because that's like my full-time income. Right. So if I go out and I'm doing a shitty job on stage and they don't like me, I have a problem there. Like I need to pay my bills. But if people don't like the stuff that I'm writing and I'm putting out there, I've learned to just sort of, it doesn't bother me because
it takes time.
It's not for them.
That's not an easy battle for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Being able to put yourself out there and take that judgment for what you've created is only a one-time battle if you choose. It's only one time if you're willing to make the sacrifice and put it out there. You don't have to be willing to make the sacrifice again because you're already there.
Right.
Everything from that day forward is out there. But that first walk across that bridge is insanely difficult because it requires you not to believe in, music.
Mhm.
It requires you to believe in your music.
Right.
And not just what you read, but what came out of your own fucking head and heart.
Yeah.
Idea from scratch. And then I think it's generational. And Gary might agree with me with this because way you were describing rap earlier, biting people's shit, the fighting and all of the stuff that would go on. It's different for millennials because we hid from the camera. People were going to know what we did. It was going to be judged immediately on a massive scale because our groups were so small. But given the opportunity for you guys, it's kind of like, fuck it. If I throw 10,000, they're only going to be able to scream at me for 1 or 2.
Right.
You're going to run out of things to throw at me.
Right. It's so weird where we are as millennials too, because like this Gen Z generation, where first of all, they are just every single thing that happens in their life, the good, bad, and the ugly, is being broadcasted to the world. So they have no shame. And like that's something that's like, kind of weird for me to like see play out in real life when I'm like at a show and people are on their phones and they like have not looked up from what they're doing because they are just so preoccupied broadcasting every moment of how great they're like. It's a weird thing to see. But then also Gen Z is like that cancel culture, right? Like everything is somehow offensive. Everything needs to be canceled. Everything like
till you're 30.
It's
and then you're the one getting canceled. You'd be like, fucking, it's no longer a game anymore.
I mean, I realized it was bad. My friend, she made like a TikTok video and she's like my age, so she's in her late 20s, just of like some makeup tip, and then like she's got all these 16-year-olds like coming after her. Well, that's like toxic use and the toxic ingredients, and like you're telling women to not have wrinkles. What's wrong with having wrinkles? Like you should embrace your age. And we're like, what's wrong with like high schoolers today? Like what happened? And it's like it's a weird thing as a millennial because we're in the middle between the like Gen Z, which are just we don't understand at all, and then the generation above us, which is a little bit more conservative.
Women though, they did get in my opinion, got a big boost for not having to get that issued tackle box at 13 years old of fucking makeup and all that stuff. When the pandemic happened, you saw all these faces stop wearing makeup.
Yep.
And all women couldn't have looked more beautiful because there was less BS in between the communication, because anybody wearing a mask is not communicating with you. They just can't be because it's not them.
Right.
No matter what's on there. I don't care if you're fucking Left Eye or fucking you're Nelly with a fucking Band-Aid on your face. Still a mask. Still a piece of influence.
Yep.
Still a change. It's not natural. And then when all the women started doing it, I was like, it had to feel so good.
Yeah, it was definitely nice, like not having to wear makeup or, it's what I do though, like about I will always be like an over the top performer is that I feel like when I put on makeup and I get to do my hair and I get to wear costumes to go on the show, then it allows it to separate like me from the performer. So like when I go out and I perform, that's a version of me. But that's not necessarily reflecting who I am and all that I stand for. And then at the end of the day, I can like take that off at the end. Where
church and state.
Yeah.
It's separating church and state. But I do like that. It's almost a bit of freedom from judgment when you get to check your ego at the door. Because the ego is a persona.
Right.
At the end of the day, everybody thinks it's, muscles or a walk around. It's actually the mask that you create from birth. You're issued some stripes and some different stuff, and then you run out into the world with it.
Yeah.
But being able to hang your mask up and then go out on stage and be someone completely different, gotta be an appeal. It's kind of like being a mascot.
It kind of is. I feel that. I feel there, but I think the most important thing to remember is like as a performer, yeah, dude, there's so much ego there. It's so easy to just get caught up in like, well, all these people like me and I'm,
no, they like your feather boa and your leg kicks, Chief. They don't know shit about you.
Dude, there's so many people that can't separate it. They can't separate it. Like I know performers who are just unbearable human beings because they don't get when you are off stage, Like you got to tone it down.
They're not revered. They're not loved. They're not cherished.
Right.
They're not somebody that we put up there on a pedestal. They'll never have that seat.
Right.
So, I mean, they're curmudgeon. They're just going to sit there and they're going to hate what they're doing because it's not coming from a place of love.
Right.
They've got their own art that they should be spinning, but they're wasting their years on the planet trying to recreate somebody else's for what? Cash.
Yeah.
It's for money or it's for passion. One or the other.
Right. Right. And I mean, you have to have some balance. You have to pay your bills. I get that. But to just completely use your gifts and your creativity, and not put something positive, to not pursue something original, it's a waste of talent.
You have to.
Yeah.
You absolutely
You'll kind of drive yourself crazy too. Like it gets old.
You're an adventurer.
Yeah.
You love to do crazy things, go all over the world, all that kind of stuff. And Gary, did you know that Alissa was on a reality TV show?
I didn't. I just saw that, when I was doing a little research, but I wasn't aware of what the show was. It was for USA Network, I believe I saw.
Yep, Snake in the Grass.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
It was interesting. So they didn't really tell us so no offense to reality TV, but a lot of it's
most of it's terrible.
No, so a lot of it's so cringeworthy. And I'm like, they're gonna put me on this show and I'm gonna be like one of those, what are these girls that they put on these shows that like anyway. They didn't like really tell us the premise. They're like, okay, great, you're gonna fly to Costa Rica and we'll tell you about it then. And I'm like, what do I have to?
I've watched Fear Factor.
What do I have to do out there? I mean, that shit I think is kind of cool. Like the Fear Factor stuff, I would do
all the way up to eating. No,
I would do that. But if it was some like trash reality TV show where everyone's just like talking shit about each other, like I don't. That doesn't put anything.
It's bad for the soul.
It's bad for everything. But that's just my personal opinion. Anyway, we get there. And we have these like challenges that we have to do out in Costa Rica. We're in a team of 4. And we have to find these like different clues to, accomplish the challenges. But the thing is, one person in the group is the snake, like the liar. Yeah, they're trying to sabotage all the progress that we make during the challenges. And we have to figure out which one of the team is the snake. And if we vote at the end, if 3 of us figure out who the snake is, then we win. And then if the snake is able to cause confusion and convince people it's someone else, then the snake wins.
I liked it. I watched it.
It's kind of like Survivor with like a little extra twist.
Yeah, it's kind of like The Mole and Survivor. And
That's a good description of it. When I was watching it, because I was curious, when I saw it pop up, I was like, all right, so because there's always like that build up for each character going into the show. And Gary can speak to this a hell of a lot better than any of us. But they were describing them and then they got to you and I'm like, okay, so a former beauty pageant queen and Harvard grad and musician and all these things that people are just going to annihilate you for being in this game. I wanted to see how that was going to pan out, and you shut them down.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of tolerance for too much bullshit. I think that's another thing. Like growing up in the industry, being a woman growing up in the industry is just like you learn how to shut down bullshit really quickly.
Yeah, you want to be looked at, not asked to be looked at.
Right.
Like if you're asking to be looked at, you're doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You'll be recognized when you're doing the right thing, not when you attract the most attention.
Right. My whole thing is you have to command attention. You can't demand it.
I will tell you though, I was on board with you at first in that show. That I thought it was that dude.
Oh, right. Yo. Okay. So there were so many things at the end that they didn't even air because I was like, so he lied about a bunch of stuff. He was telling me like
the whole time.
He told you like I lived in Colorado. And I lived in Florida, and I lived in, I can't remember, I think
Spain,
San Diego. And I was like, oh, so you come from a military family. Like, those are where all bases are. He's like, no, my dad's whatever he's made up. At the end, I was like, why did you lie to me about what your dad did? Like,
why are you being a snake, you non-snake?
He's like, well, then you guys would think I'm the snake. And I'm like, Oh boy.
Confused himself.
My favorite thing though was I had like personal friends of mine tell me like, oh yeah, when we watched it, we thought you were the snake. I was like, you know me. You know all those things about me are true. Like, where is the confusion there?
But the what was it? The game warden. What was she? She was a some kind of forest ranger.
Oh yes, she actually wasn't a park ranger.
Really? She lied about that?
Yep, she made up a whole identity. She was really nice. She was a really sweet girl.
She made up a park ranger. What a bizarre career to pull out of a hat. It's actually kind of smart. Who the fuck questions a park ranger?
Crazy shit. Yeah, people make up just the craziest shit.
Well, she had said the night before, like she was there, like studying, like this persona that because they told her like, hey, you're gonna be the snake. You have to think about how you want to do this. So she's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna come up with this whole persona and map park ranger.
She admits that she fudged up her own game like over and over again on the way through it.
It's yeah. I mean, definitely. I think she did a pretty good job.
She did up until the point.
Yeah, up until the point where she just. I mean, she kind of lost it at us, and we're all looking at each other like, "Oh, what just happened?" Like, she's kind of pissed, and then I think that's when it all like to us.
Did you guys? I know you were in the Costa Rican jungle, but they always like to say you're in the jungle when you're like on the outskirts, kind of inside the jungle, where someone like Gary is not going all the way in there because he's like, fuck you. We'll just do it right here by these 2 palm trees and this thing because I'm not getting bit by a snake.
Well, okay.
Don't turn the camera that way.
The thing about that was we actually did sleep in the woods and they had a team of professional snake wranglers that as we slept, like walked around with their...
You slept on the ground?
Oh, yeah. We slept on
the ground. No. Rule number 1 in the jungle. Never sleep on the ground.
I mean, they had like mats and stuff, but yeah, it was, they did have these wranglers that were walking around looking for poisonous snakes and spiders that could bite us while we slept.
It's no joke. I was in Panama for jungle expert training, and we had to stay out there in it. It's similar environment as Costa Rica, Central America, the whole nine. And I had a buddy that didn't sleep for like fucking weeks straight. He just slept with his back against, or sat with his back against a tree. He's like, I refuse to sleep because you can't see your own hand in front of your face in triple canopy, jungle at night. And we slept in hammocks.
Yep.
Because you were told don't ever lay on the ground because you're going to need snake wranglers. Yeah. But do they have black palm there? Did you happen to see that? There's this plant that has like all these spines all over it that stabs everybody all the time.
Yeah, we did undergo some I don't know if you want to call it training, but they did say like don't touch this plant, don't touch this plant. Like we had to there were safety precautions that were taken that you don't see on camera. Yeah.
Yeah, they take you to some sad third world zoo and they point at a few things that you're not supposed to touch. They give you a class. Am I right? This is really how these things go.
Well, the craziest thing for me is that the last scene where we're there in the snake pit, and they for that part they did put like tamed snakes in the I don't know what you want to call it, domesticated snakes. They're in the
there's none of those in my opinion.
And we're like filming it, and then they were like, hey, cut, like the snakes are getting out, and like the guy's got to run with his like little fishing pole and put them back in. And
nope, there are like anaconda, there are bushmasters, there are all sorts of crazy crap out there. Gary, what's the
you don't gotta worry about?
Yeah, go ahead.
The big ones aren't as bad because you could get away from
anything that says viper in it.
Yeah, anaconda. That's that will slowly squeeze you to death. But those little motherfuckers that just pop up.
Yeah, all those eyelash vipers or pit vipers of some sort. They're all in the trees. They're different colors.
Yeah,
everything's got a triangular head. Yes,
because you might see a snake, but you're not going to see something this big that could kill you.
Right.
There is one thing there that I don't know, man. I got words for God if he is there, because this thing should not exist. Did you know that there is a such thing as a vampire bat?
Yeah.
Do you know what a vampire bat does?
Don't talk about it.
It's not just the fact that it bites you and gets some blood. Whoopity-doo. That's, we all saw that on Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Right? No. These fuckers crawl, and they also have anesthetic in their mouth.
Oh, yep.
That numbs your skin before they suck on you like a fucking juice box.
Yep. So you don't know what's happening. Yeah.
So you don't know you're caving in. Like, fuck you. Like, that is an unholy animal. That should not be allowed.
Yeah, there's some wild things down there in the jungle of South America.
So you're playing tonight.
Yep.
Over at, where are you playing tonight?
It's called Troublemakers, not too far from here, Wellesley Chapel.
Awesome. Piano bar. We're gonna go over there and check it out tonight.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun gig, and my favorite thing about the piano bars is you can have people there of all ages, all backgrounds. You know, you'll have like 20-year-olds, you know, with their grandparents, you know, and they're all singing, you know, Sweet Caroline or just the classics.
Bum bum
Bum bum bum. You know, you got a bunch of people from up north. You got a bunch of native Floridians. You have people from everywhere there. So it's
but it's a different bum 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 every time.
It's
a different. It depends on who's saying it, because it can be a party with one, and the other one can be like.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd be okay if I never heard that song again. I'm from Boston originally, so.
Oh. Yeah, that and the Dropkick Murphys have got to be high on your list of no-nos.
Yeah. Shipping up to Boston. I mean, I have to go back in a couple weeks, and it's fine. I mean, I get to perform and stuff, but it's going to be so cold. And just like, there is nothing worse than stepping foot into Logan Boston Airport, and then you just like hear the accent again, and you're like, oh my God, it's back. Like,
that is an accent that, man, dude, I lived in Connecticut. I had buddies in the Army from Massachusetts. It's, you know, it's a whole different human. Massachusetts is different. It's not, I don't even know how to because we were talking about, what was it yesterday? We were talking about Ohio and Florida have the white trash express that goes between the two of them. But I would argue that anything outside of Boston starts to become very, very backwoods, very, very, it starts to get more and more.
Well, the craziest thing about Massachusetts, you're not wrong, is how small it is, but there is so much, like, it differs so much. So we, around Boston, the metro area, we call that LLL, leafy, liberal, loaded. Those are all your like white PTA moms that, you know, are driving around their Range Rovers and like,
gotcha,
are offended by everything. And, you know, super, super nice neighborhoods. And then you do get out and the closer you get to New Hampshire's like the West Virginia of New England. You know, it's like, just, you know what I'm saying? So
yes.
The closer you get up there, it starts getting a little, you know, interesting. Everything like west. So Massachusetts has this like whole western part that's just like a wasteland. Like
it's hillbillies. Like, I didn't realize they were there.
There's not, nobody does. People in Massachusetts don't know they're there.
It's kind of like upstate New York.
And the thing is, the state only takes like 3 hours to drive through. So it's like but they're there. And then you get to Boston, and it's like its own character because there's like the old school Boston, like Italian and Irish people who are just their own thing. And then you have like the wannabe old school Boston who are just like terrible.
Angry at the world.
It's like the Jersey Shore of Boston. It's like terrible. And then you get a lot of like young yuppies coming in from other parts of the country because of all the schools
Harvard,
there.
Man. You had to see the fakest and the realest shit all at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. So you see things that are like, how is this real? Like, you know, the not exchange students, but the international students from like China and Japan, like showing up in their Audis and their like brand new Armani suits for class. And you're like, we don't do that here.
I'm eating ramen. But I just made a grilled cheese with my iron.
You got a lot of like absolutely brilliant kids who are just living in La La Land though. Like they just, you know, they're doing their own thing and you like respect the hell out of them. And they're like, how do their brains work like that? But they just, like basic things like having a matching pair of socks, not going to happen. But there's definitely legacies, there's athletes, there's the, you know, the pompous sort of stereotypes types that you would imagine. It's a mixed bag though. There's a lot of people that I just respect the hell out of that are
I believe it.
So different than what I thought going in there. They're so accomplished. They're so smart. I mean, you just meet people where you're like, how is this how is it possible that this person's brain is working like this? They're going to do something brilliant, like the future Elon Musk of the world, just there chilling with their weird ideas.
Hanging out, like getting ready to go out to, what is it, Silicon Valley and hit the ground and change how we view the entire world. I think that's the next year. This next year to 2 years is going to make the world is going to be a completely different place.
Yeah.
Technology, medical, all of our healthcare is going to change. It's all on the brink of a completely different reality. You either got to embrace it and roll with it or fucking, I don't know, find your compound.
Yeah.
Because it ain't going any other way.
It's funny you say that too, because with all that, I think we're going to see a lot of pushback too. We're going to see the the anti, whatever you want to call that next phase, that people are just going to kind of reject it. People are going to not want to be part of it. People are going to push back. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic as well.
They'll come along.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You can only sit there for so long. It's like ignoring that yelling toddler. Eventually they're going to give up and come sit with you because they know that you're not paying attention to them anymore. That's the biggest thing. If you don't take offense to the ignorance that people are spewing out their mouth, they stop spewing ignorance real quick. Ignorance needs offense. Without offense, it doesn't fucking exist. Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, we're hour and 16 minutes in.
Oh, wow.
Definitely want to have you back.
Okay.
Do you want to tell people where to find your music, what you got coming up next?
Yeah, you can go to Spotify, Apple Music, all that good stuff. Look under Alissa Musto. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and all that. What I got going next, I'll be traveling around a lot for the next few months. I'm going up to Georgia, Louisiana, Arkansas, Texas, all the good places. And then
I'm smiling for those of you in podcast land. My face is not. That sounds like it sounds like a tour that Kid Rock would go on.
Well, I'm keeping it in the South while it's still cold.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
When the summer starts picking up, I'll go to some different locations. But yeah, just gonna hit the ground running, doing the thing, writing more music, playing more shows.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
I love it. I mean, it sounds crazy. It sounds daunting. It sounds crazy. And it's like, oh, Arkansas. But it's like, I don't know. There's something about it that's just so fulfilling. Like, hell yeah, Arkansas.
Because you're making them happy.
Yeah.
You're not bringing bad news to people. That's got to be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like you're never showing up to work, getting ready to tell everybody they suck. You know what I mean? But at least you have that in your corner. People are coming to you. Like, there's also an onus to, like, if you don't cheer people up, then they're going to be upset with you. Well,
yeah, that's. I mean, I always try to put good vibes out there in the world because I do that regardless. I don't know the shit that people are going through. If they're going to my show, it could be because they've had the worst day of their life. They could be trying to celebrate something. They could be trying to forget something. I don't care. I'm gonna go put out my good energy for them regardless, and hopefully make them smile.
It's got to be hard when you don't feel like smiling.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of times where my own personal life is hell, and I don't want to go out there and pretend like everything's wonderful. But I've had a few humbling moments that have gotten my ass in gear real quick, and because there have been moments where I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to leave something else early to go to work. I don't want to be putting on a happy face. And those are the days that, you hear a story that's just real humbling, that, hey, that was my dad's favorite song, or, we lost our daughter and that song meant a lot to her, or, my dad has Alzheimer's and he sang along every song. And, those are just humbling times where it's like, all right, well, you can be going through shit, but that doesn't take away your ability to make other people feel better. So I remind myself of that when I don't want to go up there. And
it's gratitude.
Yeah.
It's gratitude. And I appreciate that. It's also mindfulness. We have to take stock of our surroundings and what we're what's going on around us. Too often we live inside the mind in that anxiety and depression brain, the future and the past.
Yeah.
When in reality, you've got 10 people standing in front of you all at the same time that are yelling and screaming and having fun while we're living in a place that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It literally doesn't exist. It's a fictitious place that we're creating a scenario that we're thinking about that might happen.
Right.
or has happened, but it isn't now. So being mindful and being with your art, I think we're all grateful that you've chosen to take that path, because it's the path less traveled.
It is.
And it does require self-awareness. And thank you to your parents for giving you that foundation to work from and having that self-confidence. So I appreciate you, your vulnerability, and I'm looking forward to seeing the art that you put out that is 100% you. I'm excited. I think you're going to do some amazing things. Gary, you want to add some things?
Pretty much. That's it, exactly how I feel. Thanks for coming on. I really like your approach to music and why you do the things that you do. And, looking to help people and, getting out of bed on those days, and you could cancel your show or whatever, but pushing through and giving those people those moments, that little moment could change somebody's whole life. That could have been the day they were just done with it or whatever the case may be. And that pushes them through to the next day and the next day. So, I really appreciate what you do with the music and everything. And, I'm a fan for sure. And I'm going to keep following you. And I wish I could go. I love piano bars. I like how free people are and how people just sing. And you
can come next time.
New York we used to go to a lot. They're always a lot of fun. Like, I'd like to just get, have a couple beers and scream every now and then.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. Well, next time you're around, yeah.
Bum, bum, bum. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Listen, I'm going to ask you next time you're here, I need to hear, because your voice just sounds like it belongs to Black Velvet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I can sing Black Velvet. Yeah.
Is that a song that you like to sing?
Yeah.
Because you've got a very smoky voice and I love it. So, and I could hear that. As you were talking, I was like, I want to hear this.
Yeah, you got it. I'll definitely do that for you. But thank you guys so much for having me today. It's been a lot of fun, and anytime I get to talk about what I love to do and why I do it, it's a good time, and I appreciate you giving me a platform to do that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Genuinely appreciate you. Remember, everybody, be cool and keep learning.
A cruise ship essentially stranded at sea.
Growing desperation on board a cruise ship.
Many cruise ships are still waiting to dock.
The cruise ship is now stuck.
A growing crisis, aboard cruise ships.
Coronavirus on board a cruise ship.
Essentially stranded there.
Several cruise ships.
On that cruise ship, on board this cruise ship.
Cruise ships.
Cruise ships.
Cruise ships.
Cruise ship on a cruise to nowhere.
40 days stuck out at sea. Just a prayer to comfort me as the world I know unfolds in the background on TV. We've seen troubles, we've seen storms, but not enough to stay ashore. Now I'm a slave, the only place I felt free before. Tonight it's silent. Come before the storm, I can't deny it. I see life strangely still. The water is sweet, isn't good. The water to be seen that way. I see life strangely still. The water is sweet. I just wanna go home, where that is, I don't even know. From a distance I can see Lady Liberty staring back at me from her island fields, from her island dreams, with the huddled masses yearning to breathe free. But I still life strangely still. The water is today. Good. Someday we'll be back at sea, and through it all I still believe there's a second chance for you and me. Till then I wait patiently.